Monday, December 4th, 2023. That's 8:45 p.m. Central Time. Anyway, there it goes. All right, so this is a little chat tonight, open chat. I think I might do some, starting tomorrow, probably maybe some Bible Mandela effects, debunking. Not sure. I was gone today, so excuse me. I was gone today, so I didn't really spend too much time on the computer. So I gotta make sure this is plugged in because I have, let's see, 26% battery. Should hold out anyway for a little bit. So yeah, probably not a big long stream tonight, but anyway, I want to touch on the red heifer thing that's going on in Israel. The 5 red heifers. There we go. I don't know why this thing's all floppy. I can't understand it. I think I did something here. Hold on a second. Anyway. Actually, not sure. Sorry. Again, sorry if anyone's getting seasick. Trying to pull that up. So anyway, we are looking at the red heifer tonight. And I'll just wrap up what we've been talking about on those comments also from the last 2 nights, Saturday and Sunday. Anyway. So yeah, so we're gonna mostly talk about this though. Oh crap. I'm trying to get it closer. I should have just pulled it. Anyway. Goodness gracious. All right, sorry about that. I don't know what the heck happened. All right, so this is what we got going on around the news. What in the heck? Something getting the keyboard or something. I think so. Got something. I was gonna say, or I got a ghost typing. Hey D, how you doing tonight? You know what? My keyboard. Okay, so get this, D. I was just texting a friend who I text every night, and she's an older lady in her 80s, right? And I text something and I went back to read it before I sent it. Now I have nothing on. In this whole house, there's nothing except my laptop and my security system. And so I didn't have no videos on, nothing. I don't have a radio, don't have a TV. And I texted her something. And as I'm looking at my text, for no reason, it starts typing out something. I typed to her. I typed, yeah, it's been November was a hard month. That's what I wrote. November was a hard month. And as I'm looking at it, for no reason, it starts texting out these words. It said, and there's, like I said, there's nothing on right now. Now, the only thing and the sound in the whole house was my refrigerator rattles sometimes. And anyway, so all I could kind of hear a little bit of rattling on the refrigerator, but I don't think you can hear it over here. But anyway, otherwise it is this house. But for no reason, after I got done, I was about to send it and it starts typing by itself. And it said, it typed out, the bank has frozen my account because there's some suspicion about my Bitcoin. I'm thinking, what the hell? And I didn't say anything. I'm just looking at it to make sure it was right before, and it's typed this out all by itself. The bank has frozen my account because it's something suspicious about my Bitcoin or something like that. I've never had a Bitcoin in my life. That is just so weird. And I thought, what if I would have hit send and she would have thought that the bank, yeah, I would have hit send, or I thought it was going to hit send by itself. And I'm thinking, what would she have thought? My bank account was frozen because of Bitcoin. I've never had Bitcoin. My bank's not frozen. Anyway, God, that was so weird. Anyway, so like I said, there was nothing on except, hey, Galix, good to see you tonight. Welcome. And there's nothing on except the TV. Except I don't have a TV. There's nothing on except the refrigerators, like I said. And on the refrigerator, it rattles. And it's a new refrigerator. Bought it from Home Depot, had it delivered, of stainless steel, very nice refrigerator. And I read the reviews, and it said, the reviews on the refrigerator said it's a good refrigerator, but once in a while it makes a weird noise. And I thought, well, I haven't heard mine make no noise, but ever since I've had it, I think I've had it years now. You're right, Galax. I'm going to mention that too. So anyway, there's a channel called Look Out for Charlie. And it's about how the government and just how machines and stuff that they give us can actually put out frequencies that sound like speaking. Sounds like somebody speaking. Like if you have a sound enhancer or whatever, some kind of decoder thing like he's got where you can decipher, kind of like the FBI has when they try to listen to a phone call and see what they're saying. Anyway, but he says that some of the appliances actually put out noises that actually transmit if you have the right equipment, it will transmit into words. And he doesn't think that's a accident because everything we have. Hi, Grace. Welcome. Everything we have, our phones, our cell phones, our home lines, landlines, our television, computers, everything, even movies, everything we have was started out as government weapons, and then they later distributed it to the public. Grace, did you see that on Look Out for Charlie? Anyway, so he was talking about appliances and different things in your house. It could be your laptop, could be whatever. Could be a blender, could be refrigerator, toaster, I don't even know what the deal is, but there's certain things in your house what will give out noises that, anyway. So I'm sitting here in the pitch quiet, nothing but my refrigerator rattling, and my phone texts out by itself. Did you hear that, Grace? When you came in, did you hear what my phone texts out all by itself when I was just about to send a message to some lady? I have a friend in her 80s, and I send her a message every night. Yeah, so I was sending my friend, my elderly friend, her message tonight, and she said something like, I have a feeling you've been going through a hard time or something more than just your cat. And I wrote back, yeah, the whole month of November was really hard. And then I'm just about to send it. And for no reason, it starts texting out a message all by itself. You know what it typed out? It says, my bank account has been frozen because there's like suspicion about my Bitcoin. Something like that. What if I would have hit send? Oh my god, you know how embarrassing that would have been? The only time my phone started texting on its own is when my ex hacked it. Really? I'm wondering if it's picking up those noises and transmitting it into sentences. I don't know. Remember, look out for Charlie. He says that the appliances and stuff, if you like certain machines can pick up like words and sentences, entire conversations. That was weird. That was so weird. Anyway, if somebody hacks my phone, it's not a whole lot going on. So just a heads up. I think I get one phone call a month, maybe. I text one lady. I text a couple people. That's it. Maybe 3 people. So, let me get back into the chat so I can see. Yep, that's why I wanted to share his channel. He does some interesting art. Yeah. Oh wait, that's not what I wanted. Dang it, Bill. Trying to find my chat. There it is. All right. So yeah, a lot of people are talking about this third temple and the red heifer and all this. And I'm going to give you my take on it. All right, I'm going to go back because I missed a lot of comments here. Yeah, so South Park, Galax, good to see you, D. Galax, Grace. South Park did an episode about the red heifer, making fun of the red heifer. And I actually just found out about that about an hour ago. And so I thought, you know what, that'd be very interesting to watch that. So I think I'm going to try to find it online and watch it. I think it's a new episode. But I'm going to show you through a few things, and then I'll show you what I know about it. I'm going to show you what I think it is actually. How can I say this? Fake news. I'm going to tell you, I think it is a part of a huge plan. I'll show you why. Anyway, good to see you. Oh. Yeah, sharing the channel. He's got some interesting stuff. Now, when he plays out that all that stuff, I mute it. I don't want to hear that because for all I know, he could be zapping crap into my head. You know what I mean? So I mute it when he does those sounds. I don't like that. Anyway, it looks like it's raining or snowing or something. Maybe snowing. I don't know. Anyway. So yeah, let's talk about this red heifer thing. I thought it's funny, this round Saturn's eye. It's called Rise right now. And I think he changed, like 5-6 years ago, his name was Round Saturn's Eye. And that's why it has the RSE. And that was an eye. It used to be Round Saturn's Eye, which sounds kind of satanic or occultic, I should say. Not satanic, but occultic. But he changed his name to Rise, and he's got an accent. I don't know what country he's from, but he's got lots of people, huge audience. He had 3 hours ago. He had he's probably at 3,000 views right now. But anyway, he's been covering this third temple in Jerusalem. He's got this Adam Berkowitz. Adam Berkowitz. Wasn't he a serial killer? Adam Berkowitz. Or was it Alan Berkowitz? Anyway. I can't read what his title is. Oh. Something news. Anyway. He's talking, and I don't know if he's talking to, yeah, there it is. Is that Federal? Rabbi Federal? Let me see. I didn't see. I was laying down listening to it because I'm depressed about my cat and everything else. So I didn't watch it on the screen. Anyway, I was gone. Had a bunch of stuff I had to do. Where in the heck was that? I swear I saw that rabbi on there. Maybe not. Yeah, there he is. Oh, no, that's that. That's, never mind. All right, so he's talking about it. But this, Rowan Saturn's Eye, yesterday, he was pushing this other story. And I think that this is one of those channels. Wasn't he the guy that said you will be forced to take the... Probably. I'm 100% convinced. Look at 333,000 subscribers. I'm pretty sure this guy is out. He's controlled. My opinion, he's controlled. Yesterday, he had a live stream. Where the heck is it? What? Did he delete it? Let me see if he put it on videos, maybe. He did. He deleted it. No way. Yeah, this guy's definitely, I 100% believe personally that this guy is paid to make you believe something. Now, check this out. Yesterday, and I'm going to, the reason I'm saying this is because I have a bigger picture I'm about to paint here. So yesterday, it was Sunday afternoon, and he was, he was pushing that story about the ship, the U.S. ship that was attacked. And he had, the whole time he had on one picture. Here, let me just find it. Images. He had on one picture. This is what he's talking about. But you know how on the news they made it sound like our soldiers were under attack? Well, he had a video. Gosh, I wish. These are all old pictures, you guys. That ship, oh, it wasn't even that bad. The ship that they had that was convincing you that a U.S. ship was attacked, it was like that. It was really far away, but you could see the ship, and the black smoke was coming out of the smokestack. And then people in the chat were saying, this is a bullcrap story. This is a bullcrap story. They do it every time to get U.S. involved in the war. And he's like, yeah, well, I don't know about that. And let's just not jump to conclusions. I don't even see the picture. But it was like that, where you could just see smoke, but you could see the ship, and the smoke was coming out of the smokestack. And people in the chat were saying, hey, I was in the military, and those are not U.S. Navy ships. That is a cargo ship, and the other one is an oil tanker, oil ship or whatever. And the guy is like, it was kind of like that, but the smoke was coming literally out of the smokestack. And they said that was a U.S. ship that was under attack. And everybody in the chat was calling this guy out because, see, that you don't even see the picture. Ship, this was Jesse. Anyway, So everybody on the news sings, oh, now our troops, send the troops over. No, there were actually so many people, I think, call them out that people know that it was like this. The only smoke coming out was out of the smokestack. It's like, yeah, right, that thing ain't under attack. It's a ship. It was smokestack. Red Sea attacks on, and so now they're saying it's a commercial ship, but you know it, you heard it. They made it sound like on the news, like U.S. was under attack. The poor soldiers were going in to help people, and now they're attacked. Just like, remember that? You know, back in the 90s, I used to work in a doctor's office, and I was a nurse, and this lady I really admired, older nurse, she was an RN, and her name was Alita, and her son was in the Navy. And her son was on that ship that got attacked. At the time when I worked with her, it was in the 90s. And anyway, even back then it was kind of, it was like, I didn't believe me. I was sound asleep, believed everything the news said. I watched news whenever I got home. But I thought that story was kind of weird. It was like these people went up to the ship. Well, it happens every so often. Like, people will be, it'll be like a cheap attack. Like, somebody will pretend that they need help, and then when the people go to help them, they attack them and kill them or something. It was something weird like that, pretending to be in distress. But anyway, I remember she was so worried about her son. She was so worried about her son, and I'm thinking, dang, yeah, just. And then you know what? Later, she told me that he was working on the Hubble telescope. The Hubble telescope. Okay. Anyway, so yesterday, this guy, I was watching the chat, and this guy, it's so weird. He took it down. He took that stream down, but so many people in the chat were saying, this is fake. This is fake. And the guy goes, and then he'd like, okay, well, moving on. And he would just keep trying to say how we think this is the end times. This guy is pitching the end times. And I'm telling you, I'm 100% sure. In my belief, YouTube and whatever else, they have people out there. All right. They have people right here on YouTube to convince you that it's the end of the world. How many of those big channels, every single one of them, wants you to believe that it's the end of the world? And I'm going to tell you, this red heifer story is another, I believe, another fake story to make everybody believe that it is the end of the world. They're manufacturing like a Hollywood movie to make you all believe, everybody believe, all of us believe, no matter what religion you are, by the way, and that's important. No matter what religion you are, you're going to believe it's the end of the world. Now, it's going to be so in your face, you can't deny it. And then you're going to look at the news and you say, yeah, man, it is the end of the world. And they're going to go on YouTube and everybody's, oh, it's the end of the world, end of the world. And all the good professional channels that have the, KJ, the scariest movie ever. He just put out stuff. I'll show you. So this channel here with the red heifer and they want you to think, oh, Israel's under attack. This is prophecy, blah, blah, blah. Okay, wait a minute. But this, you know what? I'm going to tell you something. Yeah, it's total propaganda. And what did I say earlier? Just like he just said it again. I just heard it today again. Look out for Charlie, that video. He said everything that they're using against us was developed in the military. It was developed as a weapon or some type of military, item that they use, right? And then later it is distributed to the public to use against them, like your television, your radio, your cell phone, like smartphone, SMART, surveillance, masked as radio transmitter. It's surveillance that is masked as a radio transmitter. Smartphone. That's what smart stands for. So, the scariest movie ever. And guess what? I'm going to tell you there's another common thread inside these people. There's another common thread. All these people who are, most of them on YouTube, these people are failed Hollywood actors, or they are in Hollywood. They got some connection to Hollywood. And I'm going to tell you what, Brian Staveley's channel has multiple people connected to Hollywood. Think about it. All these channels that are pushing an agenda. This here. He just put out it. So he's here to convince, hey Omar, he's here to convince you that it's the end of the world. Now, where did that video go? Catching up with KJ videos. Obama had a message for us. He's the Antichrist. The beast has a plan for America, Babylon. Did I not 100% debunk that America cannot be Babylon? But you know what? 99.99% of Christians believe that it is. How many Christians believe America's Babylon? Almost all of them. And I've more than once debunked that. Forces of the beast are forming for the end. See? It's the end. 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 Oh, what to expect? Expect whatever. They're telling you what to expect. He's telling you that they're telling that. No, he's telling you what to expect. Here again, the fall of Babylon. Every single video, right here again. Every single video, this odd apocalypse is revealing everything. They're here. Look, they're here to convince you that you're in the end of the world. Because guess what? Roll over and die. Doom and gloom voodoo. Exactly. Exactly. Every channel's like this. You know what else? The other channel? There's another one. What's it called? End Time Production. Think of the title of that channel. Think of the title of that channel. End Times Productions. They're making a production to make you believe that we're in the end times. It is a production. And you know what? They roll this crap out all the time. Look at the picture. Oh, sorry. Help if I turn on. End Times Productions. Kaboom! There goes America, Babylon. They're coming for the children. Okay. UFO deception, all that stuff. This guy wants you to believe that it's the end of the world. And again, so much proof it's the end. He's going to roll out proof after proof. Again, Babylon working ritual. What? Oh my goodness. Anyway, again, and just think of the name of this, End Times Production. That's what you're seeing on the news. That's what you're seeing on YouTube, BitChute, everything. It's a production. Now, let's talk about this red heifer. They want you to just focus on this red heifer. And you know what's weird about the red heifer? And this is another kind of, I'm going to tell you, this is another way to tie in the Christians and the Jews to believe that we're in the end of the world. Now, they're looping. There's a couple things here. And look, it's coming up South Park. Because, yeah, there's a South Park episode about making fun of this. And I'm going to watch it probably after I get off here if it's available. All right. The red heifer prophecy. Speak unto the children of Israel. Now, this is in Numbers. Let's see. Lord, and that they bring the red heifer without spot, wherein there's no blemish, and upon which never came a yoke. The cow will be given to a priest to slay, the Lord continued, and burned on a pyre of cedar, hyssop, and a strand of scarlet thread. What? Does that not sound like witchcraft? okay, 2 goats' hair, a pigeon claw, and goodness. Anyway, so, and the other day, get this. So the other day, let me show you something. So the other day, whenever I go to town, I usually bring my dogs, and we're out in the country, and it's about a 10-minute drive into town. And on the way to town, we always look at the cows. I say, here comes the cow. They know where the cows are coming because we're, a certain part of the county road we get to, there's pastures of cows. So I say, here comes the cows. And the dogs all look out the cows and they bark at the cows and we go by the cows. Sometimes we slow down. But I noticed that farmer's got a field of red heifers. Now, what the heck? They're trying to tell you it's rare and there's 2,000 years since there's been one. No, my neighbor farmer down the road has got a field of red cows. Yeah, but they're not perfect. No. We're going to get to that. So they're trying to say it's rare. Now, if you're around a lot of cows, we got all kinds of farmers around here. In fact, most people here are farmers. But what just dawned on me? If red heifers are so rare, then why am I pulling up so many pictures of them? And these are not the 5 red heifers. I'm going to talk about that too. Parable. So this red heifer thing draws in the Christians to think it's the end of the world. And it draws in the Jews to think it's the end of the world. And then everybody else will just follow along with it once everybody's self-convinced. So I believe that we're watching like an end time production. And part of the end times is all of the end times and make sure to convince everybody the end of the world. And they do things like every 3, 4, 5 years to really pump it up. So it like builds, just like the thing from 3 years ago in 2020. That thing that went around. And it came off like a bang. And it went, it got worse. And they made their end time production completely convinced Christians that it was the mark. And that this is it. And you know what? I believed it. Now, I didn't believe the mark thing. But I did believe that we were in the end times. Because of just on the news matched up with what we're told. Not only what we're told, what we're reading the Bible, but what we're told. And most of what we're told is bullcrap. No pun intended. So what's the deal with the red heifer? So, like I said, I'm going to actually make a point to videotape or pull over and take pictures of these red cows down the road for me. So anyway, the deal with the red heifer. So there's 2 points of view on the red heifer. And you know what's weird? You know what's really weird? First, I got to tell you about the 2 points of view, and then I'll tell you what's really weird. The 2 points of view, according to the Jews, the red heifer, there needs to be a red heifer in order to purify a priest to be able to do sacrifices, okay? Because there's been no temple forever, and there is no sacred priest right now. And in order for a priest to start sacrifices, there must be a red heifer to be sacrificed, and that will purify the priest or whatever. It'll get the ball rolling, get it? And so they don't really need a third temple to do the sacrifices. What they do need the temple, and this is interesting, think about this. They do need the third temple in order, because a couple reasons. So they could, if this red heifer is good enough to sacrifice in their eyes without any hairs that are not red and not a nick or anything. And if anybody doesn't know, a heifer, so this heifer here, a heifer means a female cow. Remember for a while, like people were calling fat ladies heifers? It's because the heifer is always a female. And so this female cow heifer is a red, it has to be born red, a red heifer without spot or blemish, and it has to be over 2 years old. Like it can be 2 years and 1 day, good enough. But it has to hit that 24-month exactly, the 2-year mark, in order for it to be sacrificed. And in that 2-year mark, it can not only get a nick or a blemish or spot or grow a white hair, but it also cannot get pregnant. And it can never have a yolk on it. So you can't work this thing. It can't have a baby. So anyway, there's a lot of like qualifications for this red heifer. And so if they get one, that's 2 years and even a day. So, and when is this so anyway, so right now, the big news is all over the news and YouTube and everything else. The Christians are hearing it and they're thinking one thing. The Jews are hearing it and they're thinking a completely different thing. But both and you know what, this is crazy. This is what they do. The people who control the world, they give you two choices. Take the Christians' red heifer story and you end up with the end of the world. Or you can take the Israelites, the people from Israel, the Jews. You can take their story of the red heifer, but you still end up with the Messiah. Both of them end up with the Messiah or whatever, you know what I mean? Anyway, so just briefly, on one side you have the Christians. And the Christians believe that Jesus was his final sacrifice. All right, we went over that. But Christians believe that Jesus was the final sacrifice. And so in their mind, if there is a third temple built and the Jews resume sacrifices, in a Christian's mind, most Christians' mind, that means that's I don't know why. I don't know why, but they equate that to the tribulation. And the closest thing I can think is when they say, okay, let me think. What was that passage? I'll think of it in a second. There's one that anyway, I'll think of it in a second. But anyway, but the Christians see this as the end times. Oh, the third temple is the end times. Why? I know why. It just came to me. Because in the Christian's mind, you're told that in the book of Revelation story that we just went over, debunked. But in the book of Revelation, it says that Satan will sit on the throne and sit in the temple and declare himself to be God. So in the Christian's mind, there has to be a temple built for that man to sit in the temple and declare himself God. But then again, you got another problem. Now the Christians are split on that. Because some of the Christians say, no, our bodies are the temple. And then other Christians say, no, but and most Christians say, yeah, our bodies are the temple, Lord. We don't need a temple anymore. So I guess at the bottom line, the Christians all agree, no temple needed. Jesus was the final sacrifice, number A, and B, our bodies are now the temple. Okay, so no more need for another temple. So if the Jews are building a third temple, whoa, that means the Satan's going to sit on there and declare himself as God. All right, even though the Jews don't know that our bodies are now the temple. They have no idea what they're talking about. All right, so that's the two sides. So that's the Christian side. Now the Jewish people side, they're going by something we don't know, the Mishnah, and they're going by. Let me find this if I can find it. Okay, so the red heifer prophecy, They are going so far overboard with this. Now, I don't know what the Mishnah says or whatever the things go. But I'm going to, by the way, I got to just clear this up too. These red heifers. So, okay, so they're saying, oh, the red heifers are just so rare. Even though my farmer has a whole field of them, but they're so rare. There hasn't been one in 2,000 years. That's bull crap. No pun intended. But there has been red bulls in 2,000 years. So they're examining these red bulls to make sure that it doesn't go. You know where these red bulls are coming from? And isn't that weird? They got the energy drink called Red Bull. Anyway, you know where these so they got 5 of them right now. 5 of them. Now, this guy is not in Israel examining this cow's nose. He's in Texas. These 5 cows are out of Texas. They're not from Israel. These 5 cows are from get this, a Christian farmer. A Christian. Make sure everybody knows this is a Christian farmer. Has 5 red heifers. And notified Israel about their 5 red heifers in Texas. So they put them on a plane because it's been like a year and a half. So now they put them on a plane in September and flew them over to Israel, all 5 of them. And by the way, now, the one thing that sent up really red flags to me, I mean, real red flags are flying. I'm going to tell you, not it all is, okay? Let's tell you something that I heard today. And it might have been on that. I watched a couple of these red heifer things, people pushing it. And I'm going to tell you something. This cow was born during the epidemic, the pandemic. Now, the pandemic ended last year in February. Or was it this year in February? It just ended officially in February or March of this year, I think. So anyway, so these cows were born in 2021. No, they're born in early 2022. And the pandemic was on. Now get this. They wouldn't have these 5 Christian red heifers without spot or blemish, which it looks like his eyes are white right there. Anyway. But the only reason, get this, it's a miracle. And this is part of the Hollywood story, you guys. Since they were born during the pandemic, there was no vets available or some crap. I can't remember the crap story. But because of the pandemic, they did not receive an ear tag when they were born. Okay. You believe this? I should ask a farmer around here, did you quit putting ear tags on your cows when they were born during, 2020, 21, 22? That sounds like such a bullcrap story. Because once they have to. Once the cow comes out, a tag goes on their ear. And what it does, it pokes a hole in the ear. And if this cow and the other 4 cows, if these 5 cows would have been tagged on the ear, they would have been ineligible. Blemish. They got a hole in their ear. Disqualified. But as luck would have it, none of them happened to get ear tags because of the pandemic. You buying this story? Goodness. And then by the time they found out that they were perfect for Israel, They didn't put a tag on him. Okay, you buying this story? Anyway, so they put him on a plane, and now they're in Israel. And if any one of them gets a nick on it, they're out. But they got 5, so they got 4 backups. Anyway, so I saw this New Yorker article, and this is just like, okay, somebody actually is on the same page as me. It's an article forcing the end. This is exactly what they're doing. Now, they're not really on the same page as me, but this title is. That's what they're doing. They're forcing the end. They're okay, but get this, you guys. This isn't the first time they've had this red heifer stuff, okay? Not that long ago, maybe 2009, 19, maybe 30 years ago. Well, here, it says right here. In the spring of 1989, a Pentecostal preacher named Clyde Lott was thumbing through the Bible, looking up all the reference to cows. This wasn't so odd, given that Lott, get that, is one of the leading cattle breeders in the Southeast. At the time, he specialized in raising show cattle for youngsters involved in the 4-H clubs and the Future Farmers of America. His office in Canton, Mississippi contains many ribbons, plaques, trophies. So this guy knows his cows, including awards for 2 national championships in judging and showmanship. As it happens, the Old Testament is full of references to cows and cattle. It is, after all, a history of agricultural people. That's what I mean, everything. Their life revolved around animals. When Lot returned to Numbers 19, now this is what I said earlier, this is where you're going to find, this is where we're going to find the thing about the red heifers, but you're not going to find what the Jewish people, that they got that in the Mishnah, and I'm not familiar with that. But in the Bible, the only thing about this red heifer, there's no real like, and here's the kicker, you guys, in the Old and New Testament, there is no prophecy that I can find that is about a red heifer in the end times, except that, there has to be in a roundabout way. So there has to be a temple, there has to be an altar, and get this. Now, this is kind of like where it gets a little weird and scary, but not really scary, but just concerning. If you think about the Jews and their mindset, we don't know the rest of their writings, most of us, but we do know the Old Testament, and they believe when the Messiah comes, Jerusalem will be restored to the Jews. They'll come from all over, and think about this, because, hey, what is that? Oh, what are you doing? It's like a machine. Totally lost my train of thought. It sounded like a machine under my desk. It was a dog. But anyway, in Numbers 19, it only tells you that it has to be a red heifer without spot or blemish. They did it all the time. And then it has to be at least 2 years old to the day, at least. Even 1 day over is fine. And it has to be without spot or blemish. You think people used to take microscopes and all this stuff? And by the way, those rabbis that are examining these cows all the time, they're constantly examining these cows to make sure that they don't grow a brown hair, white hair, whatever. But if you just read the Bible, the Old and New Testament, you'd say to yourself, well, anyway, most people don't even go that far. But as far as red heifers, though, Numbers 19 is the only thing that really mentions, and then it's the only thing they mention is to purify the priest, so so wherever they're at, they can resume sacrifices because people have been in contact with the dead and all kinds of things that make them unclean and they cannot go in the temple. Now, and like I said, they could right now, as soon as these red heifers, and guess, here's another Hollywood addition, another part of the end time production. Guess, no, I'm saying guess when these cows are going to be 2 years and a day. Just guess. And while you're guessing, I'm going to tell you a little something about the red heifer. Now, the Jewish people could start sacrificing as soon as they have a red heifer to purify the priest so they can get the ball rolling. They don't even need a temple. They pretty much just use an altar. But that type of sacrifice has limitations. Without a temple, there's limitations, okay? So probably the biggest limitation as far as sacrifices go is that really the red cow heifer that purifies the priest to start sacrifice, the only thing they can do without the temple is limited. So if you just so get this. So if you get the red heifer and it's good enough, they slaughter the heifer, they do this and that with it, and they burn it and skin it and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, then the priest is considered pure enough to start sacrifices. And without the temple, you're limited to, guess what? I think there are 3 or 4 different things. You can't do everything. One of the things that they can do is sacrifice a Passover lamb. And then there's some smaller things they can do. But probably the biggest thing they can do is sacrifice a Passover lamb. Now, my question a minute ago, guess when these cows are going to happen to be 2 years and a day old? Just guess. Guess. Remember, this is a Hollywood script. If you were writing a Hollywood script, when would you have the cows turn 2 years and a day? When would you? I'd say right around Passover. Yeah, that's when it's going to be. The cow is going to be 2 years and a day right before Passover. Isn't that coinky-dink? Yeah. So I guess it is snowing right now. That's insane. Anyway. So guess what? I think this is good. Now it doesn't 100%. Now there was a time, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago. I know maybe it wasn't even that long ago. There was a time not that long ago, 10 years ago, I don't even know. But not that long ago, it was a buzz in the news that they had a red heifer. In fact, let me find. Now, actually, let me just go through some of these so I can shut some of these because this thing doesn't want to move. It forced me to do an update on Windows last fall, I think, and whenever it was, and it's never worked the same. Okay, so now what does not... I forgot to even say one very important thing. One very important thing. Guess what else that they cannot do with without the temple? So they can do the Passover lamb sacrifice, so they can resume sacrifices, okay? Now, and here's kind of here's what they did. They planted a seed with these weird, out of context, plucked verses from the Old Testament. They put together this. And now I get it. That's what the book of Revelation is. They plucked all these verses out of the end time Messiah and end time prophecies in the Old Testament out of context, plucked them, didn't say they plucked them, but they just did. And so they made their own story. And so when you hear that Satan will sit in the temple and declare himself God, as a Christian, like I said, two bells go off. Number one bell is, well, we don't need a temple. There's no more sacrifice. Jesus was the final one, right? Number one. Number two is, so they have to have a temple in order for Satan to sit in it, right? All right. So now I forgot to finish the weird kind of creepy thing about this. Now, if you don't know the Jews' point of view, but you've heard some of it even on my channel, okay? The Hebrew Israelites and all that. In their beliefs, most of them, I guess, you know what they believe is that they're going to be running the world. And just think about this. If you wanted world domination, which they do, and there's a large group of people, well, small compared to the world, but there's a group of people who right now are getting world domination right in front of us. The pandemic showed you there were all kinds of strange things there, which shows that there's people all over the world working together. Now, if you wanted world domination, what would you do? You would write a Hollywood production that makes people believe. It's like the Truman Show. Like, you can actually believe this is all happening. You believe that there's U.S. ships being smashed or, bombed over in the wherever they are. I don't even know where they got Mediterranean. I'm not sure even where they were. But if you believe that, because you saw a ship with smoke coming out of smokestack from, 10 miles away. It's not even a very good production, to be honest, but it's enough. And you got, you group 80% of the world into a group, kind of a cult or a belief system. And that's the Christians. And then you get the players that are actually going to join. And just think about how logical this is. The Christians are 80% of the world. The Jews are like 1% of the world. But that 1% believes that they're going to dominate the world when this happens, okay? Now, they don't really use those words, but you've heard the Black Hebrew Israelites saying, yeah, when we take over, you're going to be my slave, and I'm going to whip you with the rod of iron. They told me this on my own channel. You heard them. So Grace was here. Some of you were here. You heard them tell me that, when we take over, you Christians are going to be our slaves and we'll smash you with the rod of iron or something like that. And then Donnie said, well, what if we like that? Anyway, but you've heard it, okay? Because just think of the Bible verses. Think of the Bible verses that go along with it. Like in Isaiah. So in the end, when there's a perfect world, and to the Jews, the Old Testament does not have a world that just gets taken over by Antichrist and then it ends up, burning in a trash can and then you got to make a new one. That's not the story. In the Old Testament, the Messiah comes. He's a great guy, descendant, regular guy, but he's basically descendant of King David, and he brings in world peace. And as a matter of fact, I should bring up that Bible verse. So the Christians are convinced that the end they think is coming is going to come, according to the New Testament, is going to come when the Messiah returns. All right. But in the Old Testament, you had a one and done Messiah. The Messiah didn't come, do a bunch of stuff that wasn't even prophesied, leave, and then come back thousands of years later and then get the job done. That's a Christian Messiah. But the Jews' Messiah, when the Jews' Messiah come, he's going to there will be a third temple built, okay? So the Jews are like, yeah, we want a third temple. And we can't even get a third temple. You can't even start to build a third temple unless you've got a priest that is holy enough to do sacrifices. And you can't have a priest holy enough to do sacrifices until you get that red heifer. Why? We don't know. It's in the Mishnah. What we do know is in the book of Numbers. Now I'm going to show you what's in the book of Numbers. And if you read the book of Numbers, there's nothing about this having to happen and examining the thing. But I'm telling you, they do not need to take a microscope or a magnifying glass. And they're telling you that they're starting at the cow's nose and they go all through the whole entire body. It takes all day. And then they end up at the cow's tail and they look at every hair. Are you kidding? They never had to do that. Now, if that's in the Mishnah, I don't know. But it's not in the Bible. I'll tell you what is in the Bible. In the Bible, they use the red heifer, which is the female under 2 years, didn't give birth, isn't nicked up, whatever. Laws for purification. So you can't build a temple unless you got somebody pure enough to run it. And they can't have somebody pure enough to run it without this red heifer. This is the Jews, okay? And now think about this. So how would 1% of the world take over the other 99% with a Hollywood production? They're doing it right now. If you didn't know that the year 2020 was a Hollywood production, it's too bad. You need to check into that. The year 2020 was 1% of the world dominating the other 99%. So if you don't think 1% of the world can dominate 99%, you're wrong. You just saw it happen. People were doing the most ridiculous things because they were told to. And nobody got punished or in trouble except the people on the news, the stories. Remember the story about the guy throwing the ball back and forth to his daughter in the park and they arrested him? And the girl's crying and stuff. Come on. That's what and that was enough to people to stay in their houses. Not that things were happening to them. They weren't getting arrested. They weren't getting their ball and glove taken away. No, they were seeing other people on the TV do it. It's a production. And in the book, I think it's Isaiah, where they'll tell you they're going to be in charge. Like there's a verse that says, when the Messiah is here and what they see is a perfect world, there'll be, but world domination. I see they're going to be in world domination, but their vision in the Old Testament is to come is painted as like a perfect world. Israel got restored back to the Jews. The king of Israel is sitting on the throne. Oddly enough, saying he's ruling with a rod of iron. And if you say that to a Christian, they're saying, that's Jesus. He's ruling with a rod of iron for 1,000 years. Yeah. Well, not according to the Old Testament. According to the Old Testament, they're ruling with the rod of iron. And you've heard the Hebrew Israelites threaten me personally and the people guests that I had on that they're going to be whipping us with a rod and we're going to be their slaves when this happens. Anyway, I don't think they're really supposed to come out and say that. But anyway, once on my channel I did. So, anyway, I was saying in the book of Isaiah, I think it's in the book of Isaiah, it says, every Gentile will be grabbing the hem of the Jew's garment. I mean, does this sound familiar? The hem that we will be grabbed. And remember, this is all written first. In the Old Testament, it says that the Gentiles will be grabbing onto the Jews, saying, take us with you and teach us the word. So they're going to be the authority on God, okay? The Jews will be the authority. All the Gentiles are going to have to ask a Jew, what does God want, this or that, or what does God... They're going to be in charge. So, I mean, doesn't it kind of all start to make sense now? And just think of it. So, why do you think that they ended up putting a Christian in the story, a family of Christian farmers in Texas? In Texas, okay? These aren't even Christian farmers in wherever. It's in the United States, in Texas, of all places. So the Christian, and they're saying, well, wait a minute. Why would the Christian Texas farmers give up their red heifers? Because doesn't that go against Christians? They don't. Why would they help the Jews build another temple to resume sacrifices? And the guy says, well, some Christians are all for it. Oh man. So you see, planted seeds in the Christians. Oh, well, maybe it can be a good thing. And then other Christians like, yeah, go ahead. And we want him to build that third temple. You know why? Because then Jesus is going to return and kick some butt. Yeah, okay. So as you see, you got both sides now cheering for it. The Christians even supplied the heifer. I mean, is this a Hollywood story or what? But a Texas Christian family supplied all 5 heifers to make sure one of them gets through. And you know what? I'm going to read this. You don't even need to do that with a microscope on that and look on all his hair. And the whole point of the red heifer, like I said, is to purify that priest so the priest can resume sacrifices with or without a temple. And get this. I don't know if I mentioned it. So if they resume the sacrifices, they have to build a temple in order to do the rest of the sacrifices. And guess what else? If they build the temple, and then they can do all the sacrifices, and guess what? They can take, like the old days, and they did this in the old days too, you don't have to be a Jew to bring your sacrifices to the temple. Gentiles can bring sacrifices to the temple. Any religion can bring sacrifices to the temple. Any religion. You hand it over to the priest and tell them to do what your God thinks you should do. And he'll say, okay, goat, lamb, or whatever. So when they build the temple, they'll be able to all the sacrifices that they want of all different categories, all this other stuff. They'll be flinging blood and all that stuff. And they'll be able to accommodate the other 99% of the world so they can do sacrifices. And wait a minute, so they can or so they will have to? You know what I mean? You just imagine it. You know the get rich scheme they had going for the temple. In fact, it was such a get rich scheme that the Romans were squeezing them like the mafia for taxes. They were collecting so much, they were probably taking more than they were earning. So there was the 3.5 Jewish war, 3.5 years Jewish war. The Jewish battled against the Romans, finally fought back, and it was all over that money in the temple. Because in today's standards, they'd be making millions or billions of dollars, and the government wanted it. And so they fought back, rebelled against the government, and guess what? They lost. And then when 70 AD, when it all came to a head, when? Passover. It always happens at Passover, you guys. So in Passover in 70 AD, it all comes to a head, and the 3.5 year Jewish war turns into an attack on entire Israel and Jerusalem itself, and destroyed Jerusalem. It took them months to, we've gone over the story. And, when did it start? At Passover in April or March, whenever it is, and on their calendar. And it started in Passover. And so, do you see a pattern here? Anyway. But I'm going to read this real quick, and I'm going to try to find that thing that tells you that you're not going to find anything more really too much. There's other things on red heifer. Let's see. All right. Now the Lord spoke to Moses. This is Numbers 19. Now the Lord spoke to Moses and to Aaron, saying, this is the statute of the law that the Lord has commanded. Tell the people of Israel to bring you a red heifer without defect. Without defect, that's it. In which there's no blemish. and on which a yoke has never come. You shall give it to Eleazar the priest, and it shall be taken outside the camp and slaughtered before him. And Eleazar the priest shall take some of its blood with his finger and sprinkle its blood on the forward of the tent of meeting 7 times. The heifer shall be burned in his sight, its skin, its flesh, its blood, with its dung shall be burned. And the priest shall take cedar wood and hyssop and a scarlet yarn, which is weird, a red, a purple thread or whatever, red thread, and throw them into the fire, burning the heifer. Then the priest shall wash his clothes and bathe his body in water, and afterward he may come into the camp. But the priest shall be unclean until evening. The one who burns the heifer shall wash his clothes in water and bathe his body in water, and shall be unclean until the evening. All right. And the man who is clean shall gather up the ashes of the heifer and deposit them outside the camp in a clean place, and they shall be kept for the water for impurity. For the congregation of the people of Israel, it is a sin offering. And the one who gathers the ashes of the heifer shall wash his clothes and be unclean until the evening. And this shall be a perpetual statute for the people of Israel and for the stranger who sojourns among them. All right, that goes into other stuff. But that's the red heifer rule. It's just a purification thing. Now, I'm almost done here. So Encyclopedia Judica, 14:9-14. Clearly, the purpose of the law of the red heifer was to purify those who had become ritually unclean through contact with death and allow them back into the presence of God or into his temple. In other words, to take away the defilement of death that stood between God and man. So that's really what they're doing, trying to undefile themselves from because of the death. I don't know what death they're talking about, but anyway, they can't be coming in contact with any sacrificed animals because they don't sacrifice any animals. All right. But there are, like I said, that was out of the Jewish Encyclopedia, but there are, I think it's the Mishnah. I can't remember. Anyway, we don't have, I'm not familiar, and I don't have the writings about this. So Judica 14. And so it is so crazy that you got the Christians thinking it's bad, but then Jesus is coming back. It's the end. Here. So if you look up what's up with the red heifer, you'll get mostly Christian stuff, and maybe I do because this is kind of stuff I search. But it comes up automatically, this on top, when I put in what's up with the red heifer. The red heifer represents Christ. Show me where it represents Christ, anywhere, Old or New Testament. And I don't ever remember Jesus hanging around the guys saying, you know what? Let's have a conversation about me being a blood sacrifice, being a red heifer. Did you guys ever know that I'm a red heifer? I'm a female cow. So if Jesus is a red heifer, he's a female cow. Red heifer, according to Christians, the red heifer represents Christ because it sacrifices blood so that the children of Israel can enter into the Holy of Holies or the presence of God. Jesus Christ, neither by the, and then they quote Paul, Hebrews of all people, Paul, neither by the blood of goats and calves, but by his own blood entered in once in the holy place, having obtained eternal redemption for us. Well, newsflash, Jesus never entered into the Holy of Holies, okay? Only the high priest did that. But second of all, do you see this as Hebrews? Now, think about this. Jesus had all the time in the world with his disciples, and he had many, many, many times that we've been told about where he had so many people, thousands of people following him. One time it's 4,000 people. One time it's 5,000 people, and they're following him all day long. They won't even leave. And not once Jesus said, I'm a red heifer. We got to tell you guys about the red heifer. No. Did he say, I'm a red heifer? Did he ever once have a conversation with anybody that he is a blood sacrifice? No. He's had tens of thousands of people, crowds in front of him in his, and just in the four gospels. You're told of it. Can you imagine having a crowd of 4,000 and another day you got 5,000? They're just mobbing you to the point you got to get in a boat and back up, get away from people, and then like yell like an amphitheater. Now, in all those times he had all those people, why didn't he tell everybody he's God? And why didn't he tell everybody he's a sacrificial lamb? Why didn't he tell anybody that he's going to die for their sins? That would have been great conversation that we really should have. If that's what the whole religion's based on him, how come those words never came out of his mouth? He's had many, 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 many opportunities to do it in front of tens of thousands of people. And sometimes he spoke privately to disciples only. And how come he never once he told his disciples only, I'm God, I'm a red heifer, I'm a human sacrifice, I'm a lamb. I don't know how he can be a red heifer and a lamb. Oh my goodness. Now he's a heifer and a lamb. Okay, what next? Penguin? But how come he never privately told his disciples he's God? Why did he never told his disciples he's going to die for sins? Never told anybody. I mean, the most they got pushed is he possibly might be a Messiah. Which is bizarre because he hasn't done a single thing off the Messiah checklist yet. And I'm going to show you one more thing before I leave. You know how, and sometime we're going to go over this, but it takes a lot of work on my end to get all this stuff together. You guys, these studies take a long time to get together because I got to spend a day or two sitting here at the computer, coming up, taking notes and all this to get all my stuff together for this. But let me type this in here. Prophecy, I want to do one of these times I'm going to. And you know what? It's almost like this same end time productions was happening at the time of Jesus. Because here I'm going to show you something. You know this? There's a prophecy, Zechariah 9:9. It's about the Messiah, the future king of Israel, who's going to ride in on a donkey. All right. Now I'm going to this is one example. I'm it's going to take me a while, but I got to get these. Oh, it gets right. It's only one example how screwed up the New Testament is. I mean, intentionally and accidentally. So in the book of Zechariah, it's got, talks about the Messiah, the end times. Now I'm going to show you something in Matthew. I'm going to show you how screwed up the New Testament is and how they're purposely lying to you. Matthew, what is it? Matthew 27. Wait. I think it's 27:9. Let me pull that up. Okay, get this. This is how screwed up. And I'm going to probably have, I don't know, 15, 20 of these to show you. So if you never read, and most Christians do not read the Old Testament. So you're just taking everybody's word. Every page you flip, you just take their word. And that's a mistake. Because in Matthew chapter 27, verse 9, you're going to look this up and it's going to say this. Then that which was spoken through Jeremiah the prophet was fulfilled by saying, they took 30 pieces of silver from him upon whom a price had been set, whom some of the children of Israel prized 10, and they gave them for a potter's field as the Lord commanded me. This is one of them. Actually, I'm going to show you two because, oh my goodness. Actually, okay, I'm going to show you two things with this. So you think that this is talking about Jesus. And you're just saying, whoa, that's Jesus. No. In Jeremiah, do I have that one? Yeah. Oh, no. Okay. So whoever wrote this in Jeremiah was way off. This is Matthew 27:9. The real verse, the real story is, now look at, then that which was spoken through Jeremiah the prophet. That's wrong. This thing about the 30 pieces of silver, this was actually in Zechariah, the prophet Zechariah. So first of all, they got the prophet wrong, and I'm going to show you. Jeremiah never said nothing about 30 pieces of silver. Okay? So first of all, they got the prophet wrong. Now, if this is the perfect word of God, how can this happen? How could God get the prophets mixed up? And how could he get this next part mixed up? So when you see this in Matthew, you think, wow, the prophet Jeremiah prophesied about Jesus and the 30 pieces of silver from Judas. No, he didn't. Number one, it was not Jeremiah. It was a different prophet, and it was Zechariah 11:12. Zechariah chapter 11, verse 12. So first of all, he said it was Jeremiah. It wasn't. It was Zechariah. And the real story in Zechariah, not Jeremiah, but so not only did they get the prophet wrong, but they totally lied about the story. This story is about telling them to give, read it, Zechariah 11, what I should do, I don't want to take it out of context. 12 and 13 are going to be the key verses, but let's just pull up the whole thing in context here. All right. All it is telling about somebody wants to get paid. Here, all right, here. That was verse 12, I guess. All right. So let's read what it really says. Is this about somebody being sold out for 30 pieces of silver? Nope. Two shepherds. Yep, right here. It's a story about two shepherds. This is what Zechariah was talking about. And they took the 30 pieces of silver and turned it into Judas. Now get this. This is what it's really about. It's not Jeremiah, it's Zechariah. This is what the Lord my God says. Shepherd the flock marked for slaughter. Their buyers slaughter them and go unpunished. Those who sell them say, praise the Lord, I'm rich. Their own shepherds do not spare them, for I'll no longer have pity on the people of the land, declares the Lord. I will give everyone into the hands of their neighbors and their king. They will devastate the land, and I will not rescue anyone from their hands. So I shepherd the flock marked for slaughter, particularly the oppressed of the flock. Then I took two staffs and called one favor and the other union, and I shepherded the flock. In 1 month, I got rid of the 3 shepherds. The flock detested me, and I grew weary of them. And I said, I will not be your shepherd. Let the dying die and the perishing perish. Let those who are left eat one another's flesh. Then I took my staff called favor and broke it, revoking the covenant I had made with all the nations. It was revoked on that day, so I oppressed the flock who were watching me, knew it was the word of the Lord. Here's the verse right here he took. I told them, if you think it's best, give me my pay, but if not, keep it. So they paid me 30 pieces of silver. Now get this. Here's your 30 pieces of silver. Does this sound like Jesus being sold out? This is the verse that they plucked out and said they're talking about Judas. They actually said this was prophesied by the prophet Jeremiah about Judas getting 30 pieces of silver, which is a lie. And if anything, they also copied the story of Joseph being sold into slavery for 20 pieces of silver. And back then, it was the basic standard price of a human being. Human beings were sold all the time. Now get this. And the Lord said to me, throw it to the potter. Okay, so they stole the idea of the 30 pieces of silver and used it for Judas, which had nothing to do with Judas. Then they used the potter. Now, the potter is somebody who makes things out of clay pots. And so Judas bought a potter's field, which is just a guy it's a field to get clay out of, right? It's a field with clay. It's called a potter's field. It's where the guy who does pottery owns a specific field where he gets his clay out of. And that's what Judas bought with the money, supposedly, or whoever bought it. There's 3 different stories on that. But somebody bought the potter's field, which is just a field of clay. And so anyway, they took the 30 pieces of silver and the potter and made it into a potter's field. You see what's going on here? The Lord said to me, throw it to the potter, the handsome price at which they valued me. So I took the 30 pieces of silver and threw them to the potter at the house of the Lord. See, that was his price. He's not a sacrifice. And then it goes on about other stuff. Now, the funny thing is, in this story, not only do they take it out of context, they're taking this 30 pieces of silver and making their own story with it. And then they're saying that they're quoting this story. No, they're not. And then they throw it to the potter. And so just get this. Here's the ironic thing people might not get. And I was listening to the rabbi talk about this. This part was kind of mind-blowing. In the story of Judas taking 30 pieces of silver and buying a potter's field, the reason he bought the field, now this is nothing about a potter's field. There's nothing about nobody being sold out or Jesus or anything. I just read the story. It's a story. Nothing to do with end times or anything like that. But the ironic thing is that in the story of Judas, he brought the 30 pieces into the temple to give to the priest, and the priest said, get that out of here. We cannot have that blood money inside the temple, which is opposite of this story. In this story, the guy says, okay, I'm worth 30 pieces of silver. You don't want to give it to me? Well, the God told him, the Lord told this guy to throw my money at the potters. So he took the 30 pieces and threw them to the potter at the house of the Lord. So they did give him the 30 pieces of silver that he earned. And this guy, the Lord told him to give it to the church. So the Lord told him, give it to the church. So this guy's 30 pieces of silver ended up inside the temple. But Judas's 30 pieces of silver were not even allowed into the temple because it's blood money. So you see, I've got some more of these, but anyway. I guess I'll wrap this up. We'll do a whole night of these sometime. You guys, we got covering of snow out here. I'm going to show you real quick. Oh, that looks cold. Dogs are going to... They don't know it's... Quiet. Oh, you can see snow again. You hear a train? Yeah, a little coating of snow. You want to come in? Oh, is that cold? Dang, that's cold out there. All right. Anyway, all right, we'll wrap it up. Get over here. Oh, where'd my channel go over here? Oh, is it cold outside? All right, so let me get back into the chat. Sorry about that. I've been on the chat for quite a while. Propaganda popcorn. The inside joke on South Park is that the religious leader all know it's fake. See, Galax, and they tell you the truth on these. They tell you the truth. RV truth convincing. I always used to say that. The lies are in the news and the truth is in the TV shows and movies. It is a fake. And you guys, they got to have 5 of them. They got to involve the United States. They got to involve the Christians. It's got it all. Wait till we get closer to the eclipse. Yeah. Doom and gloom voodoo. That's right. I'm going to eat Shipley donuts on Sunday morning. They're delicious. Really, I never heard of them. That sounds good. Yeah. And you know what? I knew that South Park was going to tell you the truth. They're going to tell you the truth, that it is all fake. And you know what? In my mind, I pictured, oh, hey, Jesus Christ, I didn't even see you. I didn't see a bunch of these comments. What happened here? Oh, my goodness, I missed a lot of comments. Good to see you tonight, Jesus. All right. Galax, we've been informed that we have permission to read their book, but none of us are going to make it, especially the women. Yeah. Oh, and that's the thing, too. The women aren't going to make it. It's going to be and that's weird, too. They said it's going to be just men. The Muslims would be pissed if they knocked down the Dome of the Rock. Well, that's the tricky thing, Galax. That's what I'm saying. How are they going to pull that off? But I already heard Rabbi Tovia Singer standing. He was standing there, pointing to the wall, and say they're going to be the starting wall. That wall is going to be the starting. The western wall is going to be where they start the third temple. That's going to be their first wall. They're going to build the other 3 walls. And you know what's weird? And I remember truth in the movies, lies in the news. But in I Pit Goat 2, they show the mosque being blown up. You guys seen that in I Pit Goat 2? The mosque is blown up. It just so happens I've been studying Judaism. Turns out that reincarnation is a deeply held belief, although it's not in the Old Testament. You know, Galax, we went over that one night because I was listening to a rabbi, and it was Rabbi Chaim. I can't remember his last name. Actually, I don't see him on that often anymore. But anyway, Rabbi Chaim, I can't remember his last name. He was saying, he said, guess what? Christians are going to be, it's like he came out of the closet one night about reincarnation. He says, you guys are going to fall off your chairs, but guess what? Most Jews believe in reincarnation and blah, blah, blah. So I think they got their own books that we have no idea about. But they do believe in reincarnation. And you know what? I even did a couple nights of live streams about that. Well, first of all, I did a live stream about how the Jews believe in reincarnation, and not all of them do, but a lot of them do. And who knew that, right? Because it's not in the Old Testament, like you said. Abomination, desolation, in Daniel, that was in 70 AD. That took place in 70 AD, and their sacrifices, through the whole invasion of the temple, they were throwing sacrifices, even though everybody was starving. They were hanging on to these animals for sacrifice, because if they didn't do 2 sacrifices a day, they felt like the temple would be destroyed, and the Romans would win this war. So they kept sacrifice, and then they ran out. The daily sacrifices were stopped. There's 2 a day, I think it's twice a day. So the daily sacrifices were stopped when they ran out of animals. Even though everybody was starving, people were eating their children. But it was more important for them to save these animals for their daily sacrifice. Once they ran out, because they were there for months being attacked, months it took for them to take over the first part of the city, then the second part of the city, and then the third part of the city. It took months. So, I should charge my phone. So once the sacrifice ran out, they kind of gave up. Well, they didn't give up, but that's when they burst through the third section, and that was it. That was where the Holy of Holy was. They are not rare. No, they aren't. No, farmers usually tag once a year, spring after the calves are born. Yeah, they have. And so guess what they did? Because how can you have 5 cows? And guess what? They said it was very expensive to fly these cows from Texas in the United States over to Israel. Very expensive. And they had a lot of paperwork and red tape because of the diseases and all kinds of stuff. And they had to be tagged. So guess what they did? They microchipped these cows. Now, wait a minute. The cows got a microchip. These 5 red heifers right now have microchips under their skin. Now, isn't that a blemish? How can you put a microchip under the cow's skin without making a mark? You know what I mean? 2024. Yes, spring it. And this is weird, you guys, because you got the double eclipse, the X over America next year. Actually, there's going to be 2 X's over America. A lot of people think there's 1, but there's 2 X's over America next year. And it's at Passover time. Well, it's before Passover, but here, let's see. When is that going to be? In April? Oh, it's right at the same time, you guys. 2 X's. So this is going to convey. You know what? It's like they have to have ongoing propaganda. It's like they bring everybody in a room every day and give them propaganda so you believe something. Here it is. Sun, moon, you. So, April 2024. April 6th. What does that say? But there's actually 2 X's. There's actually 2 X's because they just had another one. Yeah, okay, here's 1 X. So here's the one from 2023 and 2024. Remember, we just had one in October. Then another one. That's 1 X. And then they had another X. All right, let me make this clear for them. So there's one in 2024, 2023, and 2017. That's 3 of them. There should be three marks. There it is. here it is. So you got one. So this one right here was in 2017. Remember that? Everybody, a big deal. And this was August 24th, 2017. So right before the Revelation 12 sign. Remember that? All over YouTube. Now, 7 years later, you're going to have one go this way. But first of all, we just had one in October went this way. So you got 3 eclipses, 2017, 2023, 2024. Here's 2017, 2023, and 2024. It's actually going to make a pyramid or I got A, the letter A. See, there's the 17 and 24. This is the one most people know about. They just had one in October. So now there's actually, this is what it's actually going to look like. There's going to be 2 X's. One X is going to be here. I think it's around Kentucky or Tennessee, something. And then the other one's going to be down here, like near Texas, somewhere in Texas. I don't know, you'd have to blow this up to figure it out. And there's the 17 and 24. Anyway. So, and then, and this is going to convince you it's the end of the world, right? And then, okay, so when is Passover 2024? Can you imagine the bull crap that you're gonna see next year and next spring with the eclipses and the X's and the red heifers and the Passover and April 30th isn't that convenient? Passover is going to be April 30th, 1 week. Oh my goodness. This is going to be 1 week after. Where's that eclipse? I think I just wrote over it. Okay. April 22nd. April 22nd. It's going to be Passover. When is the eclipse? April 8th. Okay, April's going to be a big month. April 8th. Passover. And what else? Here. I got one more question for it. Then I'll go. When will the red heifer be ready? Date. Yeah, listen to that. What date will it be ready? Is it going to be in April? No. Man, he's such a pig when he drinks. Drives me just. Ugh. All right. What I should do is ask him, when was the red heifer born? When was the red heifer born? Why is it that loud? All right. The red heifer was born. Look at that. The birth of the alleged first red heifer in 2,000 years in the Middle East. Wait a minute. It wasn't even born in the Middle East. It's born in Texas. Yeehaw! From Christians. Oh my gosh, really? Stop. Goodness. Man, that drives me up the wall when I'm on here. Bloop, 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 bloop. Like 10 minutes of that. And he never, ever does that. Unless I'm on here. Man, it drives me nuts. And I try to be patient. It's like, okay, he'll stop. Eventually he'll stop. And by the way, here's another one that fell through. I'm not sure why. But there was another heifer candidate born in Israel on the 17th day of Elul at 5 which is August 28th, 2018. So in the end of August 2018, there was another one, but there was something wrong with it. But that was like the hype, they're building a little bit of the hype for what's to come. Okay, they're not even telling you the exact date. Isn't that bullcrap? Pun intended. I'm asking the thing like over and over and over. What was the birthday of these cows? Oh, I suppose they weren't all born on the same day. So they're between 1.5 and 2 years old. So some are going to reach the age, and 6 months later, the rest of them will. Well, within 6 months, they need to be at least, to replicate the ceremony mentioned in the Bible, they need to be at least 3 years old. Wait a minute. I don't think so. I think it has to be 2 years and a day. Here. According to CBN News, the red female calf was born in Israel on August 28th. All right, that's the one that didn't work out. The first one in 2000. Like I said, I'm gonna video or picture. The farmer up the road's got a whole field of red cows. And like I said, here, I'm gonna show you real quick. So if I Google red heifer, the course is in the news now, so I'm probably going to get all of that. I mean, all they said, it has to be without spot or blemish, a red heifer. It didn't say nothing about examining every hair, unless that's in one of their Talmud or Mishnah or whatever they got. But you could bring the Christians sold it for millions of dollars, I guess. But like I said, now isn't this just? Oh, I don't even have my camera. Isn't this just a whole herd of red cows right there? I don't know. First one in 2,000 years. Get real. Anyway, look at the buzz on this stuff. Yeah, I didn't even type anything except red heifers and end of the world, end of the world. Anyway, all right, guys, I'm gonna wrap this up and get off here. End Times Productions. That's what it is. It's an end time production. Welcome to the end time production. I forgot the rest of the comments. They planned what's going on. Yep. They didn't plan for the public reaction. Leland Jones was in Israel a few years ago. They did an outdoor sacrifice. Remember all the controversy? Yeah. So how could they do a sacrifice without purifying the priest? That doesn't make sense. He was being hunted, so he claimed. I'll send you a link. They are teaching this to the children in Israel. Huh. All right. I didn't see any other. I don't know who said they're going to send me an email. I didn't get one. I just checked the other day and I didn't see any. I don't think I missed any. It's anticipation trying to placate an audience before the grand finale. Yeah. Chosen people. I got sliced. I'm eating Toto's Pizza right now. It's delicious. Really? I remember those. I liked their crust. They had a different weird crust. I liked it. This black magic. Yep. You don't think raising the consciousness of people could prevent this dude's name programming? You know what? Hey, Jesus, good to see you. I think that it's an unpredictable outcome of the Palestine conflict. There is a spirit of unity and people getting wise to what's going on. Yeah, it is such a production. So there's certain areas over in Israel where they do military training, and what they do is set up these scenes where things are getting blown up and stuff. You can tell they're junkyard cars because some are actually missing the trunk or the some don't even have an engine in it. That's a look at they got the mirrors off. I used to work on cars for years, and I've been to the junkyards all the time, many junkyards. And these cars are picked clean. It's always the same stuff: the doors, the trunks, sometimes the whole engine, the mirrors, the headlights, the tail lights. I personally have pulled them all off. I've never pulled an engine out of a junkyard, but I have pulled an engine, but not out of a junkyard. They actually have a hoist that you can push back there and pull an entire engine. They got wheelbarrows, they got all kinds of stuff. I mean, anyway, they pluck these pieces off of these cars, and I know a junkyard car. Very carefully, the mirrors are taken out. That's what they got all over these scenes, these bombing scenes and stuff. It's just a joke. You can tell it's a Hollywood set. And look at these blown up buildings. They're supposed to be people's apartments. Well, look inside when they have like half the building missing. Look inside. There's no furniture in these apartments. There's not even one thing on any wall. No walls, no nothing. They're all empty apartments when they blow these. They show you a blown up apartment. Look at it. It was a vacant apartment that they're in the middle of demolition. Don't you think raising the conscience? Yeah. You know the funny thing. And don't forget the Lion of Judah. That's right. He's going to come back on a horse. A horsey. Shalom, Jesus. Yeah, I had receipts. South Park, episode 617. Thank you. I'm going to write that down because I'm going to watch it. Because I know for a fact South Park is going to tell you the truth. And the truth is, I thought it was going to be like they were going to spray paint it red, and then it's going to pass, and all this stuff's going to happen, and then the paint will come off the cow or something. That's what South Park would do. And what did you just say? They show it, the red cow is a fake. That's exactly what I knew they were going to do. All right, thanks. Oh, episode 6. All right, season 17. Thank you, Galax. There's a movement within the religious community that strongly discourages animal sacrifice. And there's a growing trend towards plant proteins in general. So I think being vegan is very anti-Zionist. There's a lot of people pushing vegan stuff. I'm not sure. I mean, not a lot of channels, but some channels. But yeah. Well, they got all these places have Impossible Burgers. It's not meat, it's plant-based. Yeah, it's that. There's a growing trend for everything to be plant-based or eat the bugs. That's right. Yes, there's a Gnostic version of nature becoming sentient at some point. No more suffering when Sophie wakes up. For some Gnostics, Christ's return means that nature becomes self-aware. It's a much more positive program. Interesting. All right, good night, Galax. Thank you. Interesting, good stuff, you guys. Great comments. All right, well, I'm going to sign off, too, and say good night. And anyway, thanks for coming in tonight. Good night to Galax and Grace and Jesus and Omar. Am I missing anybody? D, good night to D. She came in first. Good night to D, Galax, and everybody. And anybody else who watched and didn't comment, good night to you. Or thanks for coming in. And if you're listening on the replay, thanks for listening on the replay. Personally, I think plants are where some even bleed. Yeah. Yeah. Good night, Omar. Love you too, Grace. Thank you. Good health to everyone. Thank you, Galax. Good health to you too. All right. Peace, blessings, and good health. Good night, everybody. Good night. Shalom. Peace.